exit. Whoa, 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 whoa. What is that?
Is it? Dude, look at your surroundings, bro. What the fuck was that? Like, what was that play? How do you get better?
To push these zones. My team. Also, we like they were like peeking. They were like way too hard. What? It's over here again? All right. Well, we need this one.
captured Zone B. Zone B lost. Two for one. You captured Zone B. Double down. Hunters like you blaze a path for the rest.
Ah, I knew it. Ooh. Damn, you got him though. Is it really just these two? It's gonna be these two zones the entire time?
You captured Zone C. Minutes remain. A strong start. Fight on.
Oh. I was like, where was he? We were playing Ring Around the Rosie. Baroni. Okay. Where's the new one? It's over here. Ooh. Damn. First thing he's gonna do is come in and... Oh, no. He wasted it on that? Okay.
You captured Zone A. Zone A lost. 2 for 1. Zone A captured.
Almost.
Keep it up, and victory is yours.
Oh, you better just use your super. What are you doing? Ah. Oh. Damn it. I don't think we could have got it anyways.
You captured Zone B. Sound tactics bring victory.
GG, GG, GG. That was nice. That was nice. Nice. Jeez.
Impressive.
I'm having a way funner time doing comp than I was doing trials. Trials is just like... It's like bullshit-ass hunter garbage. This, it's at least like a little bit more like spaced out. What did I do? What did I do? What did I do? Hey, 37 player score. 2.5. Hot diggity dog. Ooh, your boy over here, he was popping off too. A hot diggity dog. Yeah, I was like playing that OBJ pretty hard right there. As hard as I could. Super hard. As hard as I could go. The hardest OBJer. Alright, let's go back into trials. Ugh. I don't know. A four streak might be as much as I could do this weekend, though. I don't know. I'm just like not. It's like after everything, I almost just like don't even want to do it anymore. It's like 'cause it's like some massive bullshit. And I don't care so much about like the loot as much as I would just like to just get the flawless. You know what I mean? Like I don't really care about the loot. I guess regardless of flawless or not, I do have to at least finish the whatchamacallit. Flawless lighthouse passages. 6. 6. So that, yeah, that's like all of, that's as many as that I could have as of right now, right? I'm surprised these numbers aren't like more. Yeah, I guess I did like, I kind of haven't done, you know. I guess it's kind of like you know, I don't play that much Crucible, but I still expected it to be higher numbers than that. But I'm not Mr. like run and gun, get in there, get every elim. But sometimes I can do good. Oh, hey, look at that, a hunter. Oh, hey, a Titan. Hey, that's a weird Titan build, but you know what?
Stay together, my little brother.
I appreciate you being on Titan. And not on Hunter like my stupid dumbass spirit junkie. Don't do it.
Only one enemy is left.
Oh, damn. My bad, G.
Never disappoint. Your ally is back in the fight.
Is he a warlock? What is he?
You are in
I
the
played a
lead.
game with him.
I am not surprised.
He's a hunter, right? No, he's a Titan. What? He's a Titan?
So, Marathon just had its big reveal. We got gameplay finally, we got some dev interviews, we got insight into what the game is and is going to be. And I have been pretty quiet about Marathon stuff. I think I posted maybe one thing, like something on the initial reveal sometime last year. Otherwise, it's been nothing from me, and that has been pretty intentional, but we'll talk about that in a moment. So what even is Marathon if you haven't been paying attention at all? Marathon is a PvP VE, question mark? It's mainly PvP. Extraction shooter where you will drop onto a map of some kind. I think they said there's going to be 3 or 4 at launch. And you will attempt to extract as many items as possible. Guns, mods, upgrades, whatever else. Like, you get it. Anything you extract, you keep. If you die while out and about, you will lose everything that you had on you. So the stakes can be as high as I have all my stuff, my best stuff equipped on me, so I really can't die, to as low as I'm just bringing in a bunch of garbage to farm some med kits. I don't know what you farm in an extraction shooter. You can go out with a team of up to 3 players, and there is matchmaking, so if you're by yourself, you can queue up to match up with 2 other people. Bungie also said that you can go out by yourself as well, like you can hit a box and be like, throw me in as a solo player, but it's not like a solos only experience. You're still gonna get thrown in against teams of 3, so like, you know, you do you, I guess. And there's gonna be 18 players on a map at a time, so I guess if you're like the solo, maybe it's only 16. I'm not really sure how that works just yet. I say PvP VE because there aren't just regular players out there. There are also computer-controlled enemies that are also trying to kill you, and they hurt really bad. They are something to pretty seriously consider, you know, especially considering some of the more advanced units. Now, how much of a factor the PvE experience of the game is going to be, I'm not really sure of that just yet, but I would not be telling people to buy or play Marathon looking for a PvE experience. There are 6 different characters to pick from. I think there's going to be 4 in the upcoming alpha, but I would not call this a class shooter. I would not call this a hero shooter or anything like that either, in the same way that like Overwatch or Marvel Rivals is, you know, a hero shooter. I think the extraction shooter part is the primary genre. It just also happens to have class-based kits and stuff. Like, everyone's going to have their own kit and roles and abilities and stuff like that that you would expect. Like, you got the tanky run and gun guy, and you got the recon one, and you got the stealth one. You got it. For the lore people out there, this game takes place in the very far future from the events of the original Marathon, evidently. So there might be some things here and there from the original games, but how much of that, I'm not too sure. Bungie is going to have storytelling in this game as well, but it's not going to be as direct as you are used to it being, maybe with like a Destiny situation, instead relying on more like environmental storytelling and other things like that versus like them just throwing a cutscene in your face. There is going to be a closed alpha from April 23rd to May 4th. And you do need to sign up to try to get access. I put the link in the description. It is 18 plus, and it's apparently only for North America, so sorry everybody else. So just keep that in mind. It's not going to be streamable either, so like don't, leak anything. The game comes out September 23rd, 2025, which is much, much sooner than I originally thought. Like, I mean, there was a point where I didn't even think this game was going to come out this year. Like, I thought it was going to get shelved for 2026. And you know what also comes out on September 23rd, by the way, besides my birthday? Borderlands 4 releases on the same day. So that's going to be very interesting to watch. Although the two games are, they're probably aiming for pretty different audiences. One's a PvE game, storytelling. Another one's PvP game, extraction shooter. So we don't have a price point on the game just yet. We don't know how much it's going to cost. It's apparently not going to be $70 though. I don't have that much of an opinion on the price point because I'm just not very knowledgeable about price points for games. Like, on one hand, this game is being made by what people would consider to be a AAA studio, so like the price might reflect that, but at the same time, you probably need to be priced somewhat close to the competition or priced in a way that kind of matches what the market is looking for, right? So, this game is also going to be a live service game, so it's probably going to come with a lot of what you would expect from that in terms of monetization. Also, they put out an 8-minute video at the end of the live stream, which I will also put in the description, and it was like amazing. It was really good. I really suggest watching it. It literally stun locked me at the end of that show. I was like, where did this come from? So it was really good. If you get anything out of this video, it should be go watch that video because it's really good. Now, this video is not going to be some sort of like trailer breakdown or info breakdown on the mechanics of Marathon. It's not what I'm here to do today. There's a few videos out there already with that information. How the game works, how this works, how that works, blah, blah, blah. I'll put some stuff in the description. For now, I am just giving some of my reactions on the stuff that we saw, and I wanted to talk about the relationship that I am going to have with this game. To start, I really like the art style that they have gone with. I love the big, vibrant colors and the aesthetic that they're going with. But I've also seen the polar opposite feedback from people saying they really don't like it, which is fine, right? I just appreciate that they're trying to do something very distinct for their art style to make sure that it has an incredibly strong identity to it. So I like it. We know that Destiny's gunplay is insanely good, so one would expect that to carry over to Marathon, and it does. I have played Marathon. Can you believe it? I have played Marathon, but I played it like forever ago. I'm talking like pre-alpha. I'm talking one of the maps was gray blocks, okay? But even on that gray block map, the gameplay was really fun. I enjoyed the tactical nature of trying to navigate around other players and into other areas. The combat felt good. The shooting felt good. The moment-to-moment gameplay felt really good. So I'm sure in an even more updated build, it would feel even better. The combat had a lot of like battle royale type vibes, at least on the map that I was playing on. But that kind of makes sense given that shooters or extraction shooters are very similar in scope to BRs, with just the stakes driven up even more with, you potentially losing all of your stuff. So I like the art style, and I like the combat, and I like the shooting. Why have I not said basically anything about Marathon until now? other than the fact that NDAs exist. I have really not been that interested in extraction shooters pretty much ever. I have watched people play Tarkov, and I have absolutely no interest in the experience, although I know there's more to the extraction shooter world than just Tarkov. It's just the one that, you know, people know very well. To be fair, when I think of Tarkov, I think of hiding in a bush for 12 minutes, waiting for something. Whereas for what I've seen and played of Marathon, there wasn't a lot of that type of experience. Like, sure, you know, there were some exploratory stages of a match when you first drop in and you're just looting and roaming around, but the non-player enemies to engage with were also a somewhat big factor in keeping some of that intensity high, especially since they are very legit threats and not just like fodder for you to kill on your way to the next building. Anyway, when I heard that Marathon was going to be an extraction shooter, I wasn't super tuned in because I don't mesh with that genre. You know, it's not what I prefer. And just because I cover a Bungie game does not mean I need to cover or even love everything else that Bungie makes, right? Like, I signed up to cover Destiny. I didn't sign up to cover all of Bungie. The idea of trying to cover both Marathon and Destiny at the level that I would want to cover them is not something the 2025 version of myself is particularly interested in doing if I wish to have any semblance of a life outside of making YouTube videos. And as I get older, I wish to have more of a life outside of making YouTube videos. I've seen quite a range of feedback and questions from the Destiny community out there about Marathon. I don't think Marathon was designed to be asking the question of, would Destiny players like this? Because they're very different gameplay experiences. Marathon is also not like the Destiny Crucible standalone game. It is its own independent game with its own independent design goals that it wishes to achieve. And no, Destiny is not being replaced by Marathon, and I wish Bungie would start the marketing machine for Frontiers already so that more people realize that more Destiny stuff is indeed coming. They're not switching from Destiny over to Marathon. It's two teams, okay? And I feel like I'm seeing some Destiny folk have like a crisis of faith, like they're supposed to like everything that Bungie makes, and they're seeing Marathon for the first time. They're like not really clicking with it, and it's okay to not like the thing if you don't like the thing. That's okay, man. Bungie is not trying to appeal to both audiences at the same time with Marathon, right? If you like Marathon and not Destiny, fine. If you like Destiny and not Marathon, also fine. To really drive the Marathon is different from Destiny point home, SkillUp talked about meta progression in his Marathon video because he got to go very recently. Round by round progression is pretty simple. Loot stuff and get out alive. But what does progression look like over the course of like a season, like 3 or 4, 5, however long a season's going to be? Well, you're completing bounties or objectives with different like sponsors or companies, whatever they call them, who will in turn give you stuff that persists for your character or characters for an entire season. There will also be, you know, some amount of things that persist on your character forever, like certain gameplay milestones and stuff like that. But when a season ends, everything is wiped and everyone starts from square one. And if this quote ain't the truth, I don't know what is.
Every season resets everyone back to square one. And it's one of the many reasons that I suspect Marathon will hold very little appeal to your average Destiny fan, because you can't get these people to give up loot they earned 6 years ago that they've never even bothered to equip once. It just sits in their vault. So how do you think they're gonna like having their entire arsenal deleted every 3 months or however long a season ends up being?
I will play Marathon at launch. I will try to play in all the alphas and the betas and the this and the that, all that kind of stuff. But I haven't revved up the content engine because I don't know if this is a game that I'm gonna be interested in playing long term, simply because the genre of the game is not what appeals to me. My current content plans for Marathon are play a little bit, make 1 or 2 videos going over my thoughts, maybe like a pure gameplay video or something like that. And that might be it. That might be it for me, right? That being said, you know, I could totally change my mind. I could boot up the game and I could sink like 100 hours into it immediately and just fall in love, and all I want to do is make content on it. And if that is the case, I would make a new channel to keep Destiny and Marathon content isolated from each other for many reasons. Or maybe, you know, I just fall somewhere in the middle where I only play it on stream or when there's updates or something like that. And that would be it. So, yeah, that's it. You know, as of this moment, I don't have any long-term plans to cover Marathon. Just because I cover Destiny does not mean I'm going to cover Marathon. So hopefully that answers any questions you might have had for me about my plan. I'm going to cover Marathon. Cover Marathon. Just because I cover Destiny does not mean I'm going to cover Marathon. So hopefully that answers any questions you might have had for me about my plans for Marathon. You know, again, I'm open to being surprised. I'm open to being interested in the experience and, you know, having my mood shift on the game and that kind of stuff. And hopefully the alpha will allow me some greater clarity on that. Whether or not it's good or bad, like the game is good or bad, I'm not really here to answer that right now. Although, again, what I did play was fun. But I only got to play it in a very controlled environment for a very short amount of time. So that's it. That's all I got on Marathon for now. You know, when we can actually start posting some gameplay and I can really sink my teeth into it, maybe we'll talk about it more. But for now, like, I'll see you at Rights of the Nine, I guess. You know, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Hi, it's me. This video is sponsored by me. Recently I made a Pokemon video over on my second channel with my friend Mr. Fruit. I spent a lot of time making it and I think it turned out amazing. So if you like Pokemon, I would love if you gave it a little bit of time. It is a 2-hour experience, so, you know, like, get some food or something, but it's a main monitor dinner time quality video. Okay? Like, I wouldn't say that if I didn't really mean it. Okay? I think it's that good. But for now, enjoy the highlights.
Okay, this is the last safe city on Earth.
Love that.
So we have just this space, and then we have hordes of different enemies coming to try to take the orb that is...
What's the orb called?
Ugh, I knew you were gonna ask me what the orb is called.
What's the orb called? What do you do when you go to a different place for leisure?
What was the first thing my brain said? Swimming. Like,
no,
what?
What do you do?
What do I do?
What is the process of going to a different
Sweating.
place for leisure?
Oh, is it the Traveler?
It's the Traveler. Okay. The swimmer. I don't know what they're going for right now, but I'm probably not. There's other pairs that I want, like, way more before those. All right, last one. Wow, starting off great with Osmosis, Eye of the Storm, getting all the absolute worst perks in the game on a single hand cannon. How is he doing it right now? Popping off on the main stage. December 29th, I believe. Ah, I'm fine. Ah, I'm fine. Ah, I'm not fine. Where do you turn it off at? So it's this very clearly marked setting
switching over to be a Final Fantasy
in your socials.
and DDR speedrunner. Branch out, brother.
It's this very clearly marked thing here called, and then you need to switch it to. This raid we'll do the stretch break. I saw the stretch in the water.
Mars.
Gotcha.
I'm printing.
Oh, I hit you in the ass. That was actually so cool. That my Nova Bomb hit you in the ass and you exploded 40 orbs. Can't see the boss's health, so no way to see how good Jez is doing. If Jez is alive, he's doing good. Guardy down.
You jinxed him. That's on you, Mr. Turf.
Hey, that one was for the boys.
Jez is doing. It loaded 40 orbs. Can't see the boss's health, so no way to see how good Jez is doing. If Jez is alive, he's doing good. Guardy down.
You jinxed him. That's on you, Mr. Turf.
Hey, that one was for the boys.
Oh, remember me.
Wait, remember me. It's okay, he's a Titan.
There's no way to go up. Oh!
Hey, Dad or not, though?
Use the key to open the door. Okay, see if I remember that. I think I was, sir. Bro. You. I hate you. Killing this Carnage Husk. No. No.
Man, to come
Watch
this
out,
close
Toes.
to a two-phase.
Oh my
and then
God.
Not two-phase.
The wall. The wall of destiny. Also, your character never talks.
Okay.
Your ghost will be your voice, essentially.
Doesn't help
Okay.
that I rushed the perimeter scans.
Is that just true of everyone?
That is true of everyone.
I need to
That's just
locate
how
the
the
key
game was
before there's
built.
nothing
I wasn't
left
sure
to
if that
find.
was like the
Sit
robots
tight.
or.
I'll get you
Yeah,
to the city
no,
soon
it's just how the game was built.
Let me help.
Didn't he just talk?
I didn't know Danielle got to do voice acting in this game. Oh, big yawn. And then,
Go.
oh my God.
No! Grab something. What? Oh, no
What-
shot.
what
no shot. Keep running forward.
Go, forward, 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 forward. Land on the samurai. Land on the samurai. Mr. Fruit, what happened on that jump?
I don't know.
And then I couldn't pull you guys up because the thing was
door
coming.
was
Yeah, I
coming,
know, I
yeah.
know, I know.
It was me. I don't know what happened though.
Yeah, you didn't jump.
I just saw you fall and I was like, oh no. Let's see how he's doing. Here I feel like he's gotten through not too bad. I think it was mainly in the city center. That's where he was having some trouble. Wait, is he on a... Okay, no. That's just... Okay. I was like, that's just the symbol of carrying the ball, right? What are you talking about? Who are you talking to? He's not even saying anything. Alright, well... Shh. I was not there. Caster Curse strikes again. It's my bad, Lep. Hey, you can tell him my bad on that one.
Interior crocodile for alligator. I drive a Chevrolet movie theater. Interior crocodile for alligator. I drive a Chevrolet movie theater.
Remember when we used to say stuff like that and then we look at Zoomers saying like Skibbity Riz Ohio and be like, what were they saying? What the hell is Skibbity Riz? Meanwhile, our parents are like, what the f is interior crocodile alligator? Your mother birthed you into the world with the greatest of hopes that you would be able to live a fulfilling life. Perhaps a better one than she did. And then you just smash cut from the operating room to like a 37-year-old man rage posting on Reddit, being mad that they have to play as Ciri in The Witcher 4. Look at this dude, man. I didn't look how tiny this is. Oh my God, every woman to me ever. I cannot believe that, dude. I didn't think it was that close. I did not think it was this close. Stop moving. Okay.
Ooh. Oh my God, wait. Wait.
Easy.
He's going in.
Sick.
Don't.
Please tell me you f***ed it up. Angel, why'd you do that?
That was my life savings. In regards to your comment, D1 greater than D2, what brand of crack are you smoking? You will never be young again. You will never experience Destiny for the first time ever again. You can never go back. You'll never be able to go back. GF and I paid $10 in New Jersey for 2 medium sodas and a small fry from Wendy's. That is insane. The only, like, consolation that I would get from that is, like, a medium soda is basically like a gallon here in America. Oh, good. Nah, I'm not dying. Are you kidding me?
Uno. Oh. Oh. Oh.
What?
Oh. Oh! He did it! Let's go!
How much? What is it? Oh, the chopper. Oh my
That's
god.
$700, baby.
Dang.
Oh my
What do you do for
god!
$700?
Last patch. LPM. LPM.
Woo!
Dude!
I said, dude, it's a literal miracle that we can even pull this. This is racism. What would be the criteria for like winning? Like, can you do it? I mean, like, what if everybody can do it? Why am I an insane person? I'm just wondering what the criteria would be for winning the gold medal at the Sucking Your Own Dick Olympic event. What is so wrong with that?
I'm dead. I need a
Go back.
I need a res.
What did you do?
It's a turn back.
Oh, it's a turn back. Oh my god. Why is it a turn back? How did you die? What happened?
Oh, that's.
Nice. 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 Oh! Oh my god, it's my first freaking animated one, dude. Let's go. We can get sub 10, I feel like. Oh my god.
Why won't you die? Oh god, it's okay. Fool! No.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god.
This is a smash, bro.
Hey, do you have a fossil?
Tell me you have a fossil, bro.
You mean my wife? Oh god, the triple finisher. Finisher. Oh god, the triple finisher. The triple finisher with the Centurion and the ball coming in.
Feeling.
Yeah.
I don't feel that.
The skip! It skipped!
Wait,
Get out of my
what?
face!
Wait, what? How did you do that?
Oh,
Let's
nice.
go! The skip, baby!
Oh, I need someone to post that clip in my chat.
And I gotta put it in the shredder, because yes, I own a shredder. What do you want me to do with this, man? The dude just jumped off the cliff and left the pool in the ocean. Oh my god! I'm fine. Don't do it. Don't do it! Brother, you know I'm vulnerable. Until you get to the boss DPS phase, it's really not that bad. Yes!
You did it?
Yes!
Let's go.
54
Nice.
minutes,
That.
1601 cups. Hey,
That's
nobody
so long. I
makes
don't
me
know how you
miss
did that.
1602 times. Is there anything in my shirt pocket? I'm not ignoring you. I can't just say that my dick is hard in a YouTube title.
Hey guys, so over the past few months I've had some people recording funny things and awesome stuff happening in my stream, and so today is going to be showcasing a bunch of these funny and
How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? You'd be like, whoa, did he crack today? Is there something going on with him mentally? No, I'm just a modern gamer, boys. I just consume anything thrown at me. Now, about a couple years ago, I saw this trailer for a game that I was a little bit excited for. You might have heard of the name Marathon. Ooh! Now, if you ever heard of the name Marathon and you're as old as me, you'd probably realize that the entire series began in 1994. Yeah, the day that my dad's sperm included me in the roster, and I was fired off into reality land, okay? That's when this game franchise was actually here, okay? In fact, I would say that Marathon 2 Durandal, pretty good game. Marathon Infinity, great title itself. Between 1994 and 1996 is when this franchise was rocking. So, pretty much at the time of me effectively breastfeeding, okay, ladies and gentlemen, yeah, that's when Marathon started, okay? So, conveniently, in like the last couple of years, Bungie decided to bring back this long-dead franchise. Now, Marathon, for anybody that doesn't know, it was like an original, like, actual single-player first-person shooter. I would say that it was about as influential as Doom, as many other games, okay? Like, some would say that this was probably Halo before Halo, right? There's a pretty good retrospective video on it on YouTube. There's a lot of gameplay that you can watch, and if you haven't played these games, they're literally available for free. In fact, there are actually fan patches that you can download right now on most modern hardware and play it for free right now. You don't even have to buy this game, okay? You can just experience super awesome mid-90s single-player shooter action right here, ready to go, okay? So if you're a fan of old-school Doom, if you're a fan of old-school video games, I highly recommend you play Marathon, okay? Absolutely. If you've got an Apple Bandai Pippin somewhere sitting around, okay, for the 4 people watching, you can probably play some Super Marathon on there. So I actually ended up playing Marathon, not because like I was born around this time. Dude, I was like 2. I didn't know. So after I played through like the Halo franchise, I was like, you know what? I kind of want to see what Bungie's all about. And I absolutely enjoyed and loved Marathon. I thought, God damn, if there's any sign to show you that Halo was going to be great, you would just play this franchise and pretty much understand. So when I found out at E3, whoa, buddy, they're releasing Marathon again? Oh my god, a Sony exclusive game? Maybe this is going to be a pretty awesome single-player experience. Maybe it's going to be, a little bit of multiplayer thrown in. Maybe it's just going to be like a revitalization. Maybe it's going to be like Halo. Until I found out, oh shit, this is a new team-based FPS extraction shooter from the creators of Halo and Destiny. Okay. Now, I'm not somebody that's against extraction shooters. I get it. For a lot of people, that's what the most popular game is these days. It's not that I'm so old that I haven't played an extraction shooter. I would say that if you've ever played extraction stuff, probably play like Division 1 or 2, okay? One of my favorite series from Ubisoft, of course, is The Division, okay? I thought it was a pretty fun, cooperative, open-world MMO experience, and it kind of popularized the whole idea of extraction shooting. You go into a place called the Dark Zone. It's a PvPvE location where you basically grab loot, you take it to an entire area to be decontaminated, extracted, and yeah, that's just how you would actually play the game. It was an interesting, pulse-pounding experience. If you got a couple friends, probably an amazing way to spend your Friday night, okay? Now, since then, extraction shooters, I would say, kind of have popularized because of games like Escape from Tarkov, okay? But Marathon's here to kind of take that fucking claim. Now, I've been very, very open-minded, okay? I thought maybe this might be the one extraction shooter that I'm all about. So going to their website, the entire story here is: a massive ghost ship hangs in low orbit over a lost colony on Tau Ceti 4. The 30,000 souls who call this place home have disappeared without a trace. Strange signals hint at mysterious artifacts, long-dormant AI, and troves of untold riches. You are a runner venturing into the unknown in a fight for fame and infamy. Who among you will write their names amongst the stars, okay? Yeah, whoever's winning, I guess, on the leaderboard, all right? God damn. Now, one thing you probably notice about this is the art style. It looks genuinely, like, pastelish, interesting. I would say the closest thing to Marathon reminds me of playing games like Mirror's Edge. So I'm not really even against the art style. I think it's kind of cool. It's got that simplistic, minimalist vibe, which I think pretty much helps it in the sense of it being an extraction shooter where, again, because competition is the name of the game, things being so visible and understanding is all you basically need, okay? Forget all the visual flares. You just need things to be readable, okay? So you're playing a video game and everything just looks to be viewable, right? Like everything actually makes sense in the context of a massive gunfight. Now, when I saw the trailer over here, ladies and gentlemen, all of that completely reminded me of why this game, in my opinion, will be pretty fucking dead on arrival. So, alright, here's the actual gameplay, ladies and gentlemen. It's just a cut together of footage. If you're looking very carefully at it, one thing that should pretty much become apparent if any of you have played Destiny 1 or Destiny 2, which is, again, Bungie's big MMO game before this, the actual animation work, like literally the knife toss here, I can absolutely recognize from Destiny right here. In fact, I would say a lot of animations were just copied over, which again, is not something surprising. One of my favorite game franchises, Yakuza, definitely does a lot of copy-paste, but for a video game that's, again, their brand new, or I guess revitalization of the IP now, in all but name, should actually have some new uniqueness to it, right? Like this feels, again, much more like a PS4 game. But I guess it's got that PS5 flair to it. And yes, if you're looking at it, the HUD, the actual movement, the gameplay is effectively just Destiny 2's PvP. Which, to be fair, I've also never been a big fan of, okay? When I played Destiny or Destiny 2, I always pretty much stayed out of the Crucible after that initial launch period when I felt like the game was just... It just felt really, like, incredibly difficult to actually compete with other players. Like, for me, it was just Vanguard strikes and doing the PvE content. But yeah, this is effectively the game that we've kind of been all waiting for. Bungie's new revitalization of an IP. Now, if you're looking at this again, it's not just Destiny. It's, again, in my opinion, the biggest problem with most of these, like, games in of itself. Now, this isn't a free-to-play game. In fact, I've tried to see if this is actually, like, a free launch, but it's not. This is actually, from what I understand, a paid-for experience. And the entire idea of it is you are just playing this video game to, again, lock up with your friends, go inside an area, grab a bunch of loot, and basically extract. Now, apparently there's about to be like 18 players in one zone, which, again, none of this truly excites me. It's literally not any different from most other extraction shooters that we've seen. Now, there are live streams one can watch, and again, just the user interface should show you exactly what to expect. You're jumping into a place to grab all of this loot, which then again you stash into your container and you bring into the next session of game. Okay, that's how an extraction shooter works. You find cool weapons in the world, you extract, and then you bring those weapons or that heightened loot to drop in, have a better advantage than hopefully all the other players in AI, and you use your superior loot to get even better loot, and then maybe complete like single player challenges or do like a special boss in the actual experience. If you've not played an extraction shooter, there's plenty of free stuff that's already out there. It is not a new industry to go into. In fact, if anything, it's mostly an offshoot nowadays from like battle royale stuff. But yeah, looking more into the actual game's like art style, which again could be debatable for anybody, but yeah, most of it is just dropping into areas. You appear to actually have what seems to be like hero abilities tossed into it. So whatever your character's like runner shell is going to be used for it. But yeah, it literally is just like a Destiny 1, Destiny 2 fucking reskin. And the thing is, like, this isn't so much of a shock to me. Like, knowing that this was going to be an extraction shooter from the beginning already fucking killed my hype anyways. But to see, like, how bland of a release this appears to be is just, honestly, that is probably the most shocking thing out there. And I know that a lot of people will be like, but Muda, don't you feel, Muda, that like you're being a little too negative about video games? It's not being too negative about video games. There's a lot of great video games that are out there. Hell, just last year, I put like probably 20 to 30 hours in a game known as System Shock. I know, totally different, like actual, gameplay genre, but a lot of games that come out are not actually bad. Even if that game was a remake, a lot of it was really built from the ground up to be modernized, something that actually, was a really good video game experience to jump into. what I've seen over here is not something that Bungie is really setting itself apart from. Like, the reality of what this is that this game, a lot of people might say it will be dead on arrival, or like, you know, it might be a fail on launch. And honestly, there's a good chance that tons of people could be playing this for a short while. But everything that we've seen over here is nothing that's like super duper unique. If you've looked at just 10 seconds of the gameplay over here, you've already seen it compared to like not only previous games that Bungie has made, but literally every other fucking extraction shooter that's available. It's why I said like free-to-play was really smart if they had went that route, and they might still go that route depending on how things are presented. Because if this is another Concord situation where Sony feels they can charge people $60 for a game that literally you could experience for free right now through various other competitors, that will be what kills this game entirely on arrival. Now, honestly, the reason why I'm making this video, and I'm a little bit pissed about this too, is because like this game, I feel, could have absolutely been a banger, okay? I would have looked so forward to this if Bungie had kind of went back to giving players some value. Like, dude, wouldn't it be wild to have like a single player campaign for a game that hasn't had a fucking release since 1998? You know, this isn't even like, oh, they just took this really popular IP and slapped the fucking name onto it. Bro, no one playing video games now probably even knows about Marathon. In fact, I would say that the audience that plays extraction shooters, a grand majority of them, didn't fucking know Marathon was even a thing. It would have been the perfect time to go back to that Bungie single player like world, you know, something that they cut their teeth on with Marathon, with Halo in the past, and bring that into a modern era for people to experience, like a fucking 8 to 10 hour FPS single player campaign that maybe could even teach you the mechanics of the online extraction stuff. Maybe have that 5v5 extraction, or not extraction, the actual multiplayer. And then this could be like the third game mode on top of it. Selling a game with just the extraction shooter game mode alone, in my opinion, is not going to cut it, okay? This would have been an amazing experience if Bungie had released this with some full-featured game modes, like back from the old days of Halo, right? You buy a game, you get a single-player campaign, you get that, you know, focused competitive multiplayer, and then you get this extraction shooter stuff. Honestly, looking at a game like this, I hate to compare it to things like even Call of Duty, but when you buy like a COD game, you usually get like 3 full-on game modes. This is just a pure extraction shooter. And honestly, after like a couple matches, this may just be a game that gets completely boring, right? A lot of these games are built on playing them with your friends. And nowadays, with how fucking expensive everything has gotten, good luck trying to convince your friends to also jump on board and spend at, you know, worst, $50 to get access to a video game that you might play for that one weekend, or maybe the weekend after, okay? Especially in a slew of video games that not only compete with this on a toe-to-toe technical gameplay level, but those games are also $0 to jump into. This is just one example of a video game that I personally feel is going to basically fail on launch, especially considering that I think most Sony experiences that are online live service experiences are typically fucking DOA. I don't understand how a company that has had so many fucking L's with like online live service slop continues to fucking push out more of that online live service slop. Like, this would have been an amazing Sony IP if they had brought this over and just released a full single player, focused multiplayer, and then the extraction on top of it. Like, dude, that would have been no complaints from me. Like, I'm surprised that they are bringing this entire franchise back and not even giving like a little bit of love for single player. Maybe I'm just missing that good old fashioned Xbox 360 era, fucking play that 10-hour campaign with your friends on hard difficulty era, but goddamn, was it a much better era than the goddamn extraction shooter craze that we're in. Again, this is just another video game that feels like it's taking this old IP that I get most people don't even fucking remember that well, and just like using it to shit out another box standard extraction shooter, okay? Simple what it is. I know I've come across as like overly negative sometimes when it comes to like modern video games, but it really isn't like that, okay? This is just the one example of a video game where I kind of had some hope in it. I kind of wanted Bungie to really succeed, but I don't think this version of a game is going to be all that successful. I think based on what I've seen, it's nothing but just one of the most boring box standard extraction shooter fares that I've seen and even played time and time again through the last year or two. Ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. I am out. bum ba bum ba ba da da bum. How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? Me Mutahar, and I'm off my medication, but I'm not unhinged enough to know that $80 games. Woo! That was a continuation of yesterday's video when I kind of looked at the Nintendo Switch 2. Kind of a hot topic right now. But you know what? I don't really care so much about the console necessarily, as much as I care about the price of video games jumping up another $10, okay? So back in 2023, a lot of video games started to cost the $70, okay? And of course, once the entire community started to see that games jumped from that $60 US price tag to $70, you bet your ass every other publisher in this entire space, whether you were Ubisoft, whether you were EA, whether you were Microsoft, whether you were Sony, if it's one thing the gaming publishers can agree on is, oh, you jacking up the price? Me too. Now, Nintendo recently announced a few new games alongside their system. One of them was Mario Kart World. Now, before we jump into this, ladies and gentlemen, I want to just start off by saying I'm Canadian, okay? It's not that shocking. But the prices we're talking about are in the US dollar, okay? Which is, by the way, the world's, like, you know, known currency, okay? This is what we're referring to. I've seen a lot of people throw around different numbers, and I'm just going to make sure for simplicity's sake, this video will all be about the US dollar. Anybody watching in my videos, if you're from like Canada, if you're from the United Kingdom, if you're from any part of the world, just convert what you're seeing on the screen or what we're talking about to your specific currency, okay? But anyways, one of the actual Best Buy listings that I started to see floating around were pretty varying in terms of price tags, right? So obviously the Switch is a $449 system, which again, all right, game systems are gonna be expensive as they launch, especially in recent times. You've got multiple market factors coming in. I'm not going to say that Nintendo is overpricing this thing. I think that, again, when it comes to pricing, as low as a company can kind of go, especially when it comes to a product like gaming, is probably what I think a gaming company would want to do. But I think we're at this point where Nintendo's kind of at their like hubris arc. If you ever notice, like a lot of game companies, whether you be, you know, Sony, when they were killing it with the PlayStation 2, they completely dropped the ball by releasing an incredibly expensive at the time PlayStation 3, which granted was kind of a powerhouse and it had a whole bunch of features that I don't think were really all that necessary. Obviously, it's pretty huge, right? Like, gamers were like, fuck that, I'll just go buy the Xbox. And, you know, same thing with the Xbox. When they were killing it with the 360, Don Matrick came in and fucked it up with the Xbox One, okay? You want to watch Price is Right? No, I want to play games, buddy, okay? I don't want my system to be my television box, so to speak. But Microsoft made some blunders and mistakes, which I think they're still paying for to this day. And of course, Nintendo killed it with the Nintendo Switch. I think at this point, if it isn't for the creative accounting going on at Sony, I'm pretty sure the Switch is probably the most selling system in the market. But, of course, it's that hubris that causes them to go down the path that we've discussed. Now, I'm not going to go into all the controversies. I think yesterday's video is fine for it. Today, we're kind of talking about the overall problem of games just going up in value. So if you go to the Best Buy stuff over here, one thing interesting is you can see that Mario Kart World is like $80, right? So that's an $80 game. And you start to see that games like Breath of the Wild are, instead of $80, they're just $70. So remember, Breath of the Wild came out basically the launch of the Nintendo Switch. They're still selling it for $70. Now, I've seen some footage of this and the comparisons, and I swear to God, I think the game is running underneath like Yuzu. Like, I think you could literally record the Switch version underneath an emulator, crank up the resolution a little bit, unlock the frame rate, and I'm pretty sure you're getting exactly what the Nintendo Switch 2 is doing. So shutting down those emulators that made old Switch games look better, which shit job by Nintendo, and then they're going to sell you this in upgrade packs down the road, when in reality, I don't see anything other than resolution being bumped up, frame rates being unlocked. It's not like it looks like they've went into the actual game and remodified assets or even added in new content. It feels like an up-resed, that smoother running version of a Switch game. So yeah, while these prices are there, then you get like Bravery Default Flying Fairy HD Remaster. Now this game is actually an embarrassment by Square Enix because what they've done is they've taken a game that is most likely, I think it's around 11 gigs, and they slapped that game key card bullshit onto it. So you shouldn't even be buying this dog shit for $40, because it's not even the full fucking game. Now, of course, you've got Donkey Kong Bonanza for $70, so Donkey Kong is $70, but Mario Kart is supposed to be $80, right, for the Switch 2. And of course, the further you go down into it, you'll see that Tears of the Kingdom is the $80, so it's fluctuating prices. Street Fighter 6, which is also the game key card bullshit, which again, I wouldn't even recommend you buy this physically, because the physical version is gimped, okay? That is a $60 release. So the prices have kind of started fluctuating, but Nintendo has brought in the $80 price tag for a game like Mario Kart World. In fact, to confirm it on Mario Kart World's website, bro, it's $79.99 June 5th, okay? Now, I showed a clip from my video where I looked at the prices, and in European prices, it was like, I think it was $79 for the digital, and then an extra $10 for the physical. Now, I've started to look a little bit into it, and I think it may be primarily in that area. There's no official statement from Nintendo where games are going to be costing a little bit more, so I want to kind of correct myself on it, right? I don't think that Nintendo is going to be pricing games cheaper and passing those savings on to you if they're not producing physical copies. I kind of thought that because the game may have been priced $10 higher based on some people's reports, that they were probably just like dealing with the fact that these are more expensive carts to produce, and so obviously it's going to cost more in the physical packaging. Now, to give you an idea, when I look at this fucking price tag, $79.99 US, to give you an idea, $80 US in Canada, I'm just gonna show you what that looks like. So in Canada, that means the price for this fucking game right now is 112 Canadian dollars, okay? Rounded up to 113, and that is before sales tax gets added, okay? So let me add sales tax for you. That adds up to $126.56. Nintendo, you know what? You want this ass, motherfucker? Okay, you can take it. You can take my ass if that's what you want. $126 for fucking Mario Kart? Are you high? Are you out of your mind? See, like a couple of these games, when you add them up together, is just getting you the actual console itself. And you know what? There's a lot of people discussing things like tariffs and inflation and all the economic factors that kind of lead into it. And obviously, look, when you're dealing with a company like Nintendo or Sony or Microsoft, these decisions don't get made in a vacuum that lasts for a few days. No, there are months and months of planning and foresight and understanding of what you're going to price these games at and what's actually going to be going on. But Nintendo has inadvertently ushered in the $80 game. And let me tell you something about gaming, is a lot of people who feel that $80 is too much. There's a lot of gamers that, felt $70 was kind of asking for too much for a video game. And now we're at a point where, yes, Nintendo has decided for a kart racing game, they're going to price it at $80 US. And the thing is I have to ask is that kart racing game worth the $80 that you're going to be spending down? Honestly, I'd have to ask anybody that's a Mario Kart gamer. I play Mario Kart, and I can't, for the life of me, see that as a reality. And you know what the thing is? I kind of wish that we used to have like in-person events when companies like this used to deliver us this fucking news. And those events used to have crowds in them where the crowds would audibly boo, Like they would audibly jeer at the fucking like people upstage and tell them when they were wrong or when they just didn't do something that gamers enjoyed. Like we made our dislike pretty heard. And nowadays, with all these live stream phenomenons, the only way to do that is by flooding those comment sections, which, by the way, I don't endorse. But one of the things that was happening with this Nintendo Treehouse is that literally people in the chat for, like, the entirety of this stream were just like, drop the price, drop the price, drop the price. Which I think is a fair thing to make. This comparison, again, between Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, that intro, between the Nintendo Switch 2 and the Nintendo Switch, when you crank this up all the way to even 4K resolution, I feel personally, aside from a resolution bump, I'm not actually seeing much in the difference of the actual game. Something like this on the left could have easily been done and has been done. I've played Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom in its entirety underneath an emulator where I was running the game above 4K at 60 to 120 frames per second. So what Nintendo is doing over here is not something that gamers weren't able to do. When I look at the actual quality of the work on the ground, a lot of this texture increase, like this rock, for instance, you're seeing, feels like it literally just is an upgrade because of the resolution. Because of the extra pixels being rendered, the quality of this rock looks better. It's not as if like the actual artist went back and redid the asset work, at least from my like perception of it, right? When I look at things like the draw distance, for instance, it may look a little bit better, or it might just be due to the fact that the fog is rendered a little differently between these products, but it just looks like a very simple upscaling, an up-resing, or you know, a smoothing of the actual game. It doesn't feel like anyone has went back and did some extra work on it to make it look a lot better. And that's just the blatant reality. You're paying an upgrade pack for something that is quite possibly, in my opinion, the least amount of upgrades. And I made an example of Microsoft last video where I said, look, a lot of games on Xbox Series X, hell, even back on the Xbox One, Microsoft would just hand out free upgrades for obviously the first-party stuff, but they would just handle the third-party stuff through the backwards emulation program, through their Xbox Play Anywhere program, where, you know, depending on what device you had, you would get benefits, right? Like, games would run better the better the product that you would purchase. It would be, you know, you would have your Xbox One version, you would have a version for Xbox Series X, a version for Xbox Series S, where, you know, resolution targets were different, frame rate targets were different, asset quality was different. Everyone got the version for their hardware. And it didn't cost gamers a dime. I think we're long past the point when upgrade packs are a thing, just because Microsoft has kind of made it a standard. If one company like that can give to the gamer, I think all companies should follow that. It's funny when companies like this follow each other's, like, you know, beck and call at upping the prices, but they never follow each other's principles when it comes to giving back to the community, or like giving something that is, you know, better for the consumer. And the reason I bring this up is, look, I'm not here to shit on Nintendo. If gamers in Nintendo's camp bring the exact points up, and it is reasonable, I think it's ultimately a net benefit, okay? When you're buying a new system, instead of locking things behind monthly paywalls and issues, you should just get some of these things as incentives for being the first-in buyers for the Switch 2. You know, it's so great. If Nintendo decided to provide these features and get people eased onto transitioning these systems, it'd be great. But as of now, a company like Nintendo is kind of showing their hand and basically realizing that, yeah, we're kind of top dog, and let's see how far we can nickel and dime the gamer. Let's see if we can give them a paid demo. Let's see if we can up the price by an extra $10. And I'll tell you something right now, this is probably not going to work for Nintendo. And again, this is just me being kind of like hopeful. It probably will. But the idea is, for a lot of parents who are walking into Nintendo stores, or like walking into just the Walmarts or Targets or whatever, when you buy your kid a Nintendo Switch 2, and you look at the price of, let's say, a Switch 1 game and a Switch 2 game, and all of a sudden you're seeing the $60 jump to fucking $80, you might think to yourself, should I? I mean, I was a kid once, and my parents looked at the price of a video game when we were at like a Zellers, and I'm sure my dad looked at it and it was like, why is this game $40 and why is it suddenly jumping $20 more? I mean, it's the same fucking game, right? And maybe it works for like the adult buying a Nintendo Switch 2, but for a parent, they might think, maybe something else might be better for little Timmy or whatever. This is just speculation by me. Again, I'm not a parent. I've just been a child whose parents have come to me with a Walmart or Zellers and looked at the games behind the glass display shelves back when that was a thing. I mean, it still kind of is a thing, but back then it was magical, okay? It was different. So that Cyberpunk 2077 that I talked about like literally a day ago, there's good news actually. The physical card for the game actually contains the game and the DLC, no additional download. Kind of the coolest shit that I've actually seen, and I'm totally like hyped for it. The other thing about it too is that it's understandable that Cyberpunk 2077 runs at like 40 FPS on that performance mode. So I wasn't really expecting it to be 60 frames. I played Cyberpunk 2077. It is a system showcase kind of game, all right? It is definitely very demanding, and honestly, this sounds like a game system that is on par with something like a a Valve Steam Deck, which is actually where I also played a whole bunch of Cyberpunk 2077. Surprisingly, I also played it around 40 frames per second using the system's actual limiting devices. And it was a pretty fun experience, right? Like, one of the things that I genuinely think is cool about the Switch, and one of the reasons why I play the Steam Deck, is obviously I like to have the ability to play the game on my main system and then I can just cross save it over to the Steam Deck. So I play the main stuff here, I do a lot of side content on my Steam Deck, and vice versa, back and forth. I think that's a pretty cool way to play games and take them with you on the go. You can play a massive RPG on your big screen, and you can play a little bit of it on your Steam Deck. It's literally the only reason why I've been able to finish recent, large, 100-hour JRPGs is by having it sort of split between these two devices. And obviously, the big value for the Switch is, like, you know, you can dock it, you can take it with you. Super cool stuff, super interesting. But honestly, I feel like for the price that this is basically offering itself at, there is actual competition in the space. Now, looking at all the things like, you know, mouse mode on the actual Switch and some of the new upgrades, the most closest thing that I've seen is this Legion Go compared to it, right? And obviously, this is a lot more expensive than a Switch 2. But I feel like, obviously, if you're in this market and, you know, if you're already spending this kind of money, I think saving some more pennies for having the extra Legion Go performance and actually having, like, the ability to have an open PC platform that you can mod games on, have access to multiple storefronts and games that probably aren't going to launch on the Switch, this is probably the one device that takes the wind out of the sails a little bit, right? It's got the old detachable Joy-Cons that you're seeing right over here. All right, you can take these off. There's a little infrared like beam under here, so you can use like mouse mode on this if you really wanted to. And it's got a lot of those features that the Switch 2 is kind of showcased. Again, at obviously a more expensive price, but again, it's taken the wind out of the sails because as cool as the Switch 2 is, I feel like a lot of the stuff that I've seen with this system has already been met by other competitors in the space, whether it be the Steam Deck or whether it be like the Legion Go, whether it be Asus's like Rogue. There's a lot of handhelds now, especially handhelds like that are actually in the same storefront as a Nintendo Switch is going to be. So I think for a lot of things going forward, the Switch 2 looks like it's kind of just a Steam Deck almost, like it's an upgraded version of the Switch, which is kind of what everyone really expected. But I wouldn't expect it to be like a PS5 equivalent, and nobody really thought that unless they were completely fucking delusional. Now, the thing with the prices, to kind of go back to it, you can look at the history of video game prices, and obviously games were expensive back then. There's no doubt about it. And obviously games back then used to also cost up to like $60, $70, maybe even $80, depending on what you ended up getting, right? Back then, I even showed this in videos, you could look up old magazines where games were on sale, and some games that were pretty light were probably like, I don't know, 40 bucks. Obviously, your games that were big RPGs, games that were, you know, iconic for that year, games like Final Fantasy VII, Chrono Trigger, whatever, those were more expensive. And, you know, in today's day and age, the development of a video game has astronomically shot. It's a lot more expensive to create, like, a Legend of Zelda in 2025 than it was to, I guess, create a Legend of Zelda for the Super Nintendo back in the day. Obviously, video games have ballooned, assets cost more to develop, and there is just more intricacy going on with the video games that we play. But I think this $80 price tag is not going to be something that gamers will ever really be accepting. It was a year ago that we already did this jump. And these jumps have to happen at, like, intervals. You know, you have to boil the frog slowly. I think for a lot of gamers and for me, like, the moment I see an $80 price tag, I think to myself, there's a lot of other games. There's System Shock that I played recently, like last year, which was not an $80 game. I don't even think that was a $70 game. It was a game that I ended up picking for less than the full AAA price, but I got more hours out of it. We're at a point where there's a lot of games like Schedule 1, which cost $20, that I'm able to get more hours out of than, say, $80 or $70 releases like Assassin's Creed Shadows. It's wild now that video games have jumped to a point where a fucking kart racing game can cost me in Canada $120. Like, that should just not be accepted. And I think it's great to see Nintendo gamers kind of stand against that, especially when it comes to their streams, especially making it well known. I think that Nintendo is literally trying to charge us extra for really no reason. You know, they're trying to see how far they can go. And I think hubris is kind of setting in. And I feel like if there was ever any time to send the market a message or vote with your wallet, it's probably to protest against these $80 games. And, you know, it's funny because people were like, man, GTA 6 is going to be the first game to do $100. And honestly, with how Nintendo has done this, I actually think GTA might be the first game to be $90 on release. Maybe even $100. It's actually insane. But, yeah. Wild day indeed. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Just like if you dislike it, I am out. Hello, gamers. Let's talk about that Nintendo Switch 2, ladies and gentlemen. Now, before we start off with ladies and gentlemen, obviously, I know some of you might be like, wow, are you being negative towards, like, a game, Muda? Come on, where's the positivity? So I want to just straight up say that, obviously, I'm not going to be negative here for, controversy's sake. I actually do have some problems with the Nintendo Switch 2 reveal, and a lot of it is with game preservation in the future, which, as you all know, is very important to me. But let's get that positivity out of the way, okay? Let's talk about the good stuff first. So the Nintendo Switch 2 is obviously the successor to the Nintendo Switch 1, which, for me, honestly, like, before I got the Steam Deck, was probably my most played system. Finished a lot of JRPGs on this bad boy, and honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that it was portable and I could take it anywhere with me, I probably wouldn't have been gaming on this as hard as I've done. Sure, the graphics aren't as good as my PlayStation or my PC, but you bet if I could just play Cyberpunk 2077 on my couch with this, or take it with me on a plane, I'd probably play it with less impressive visuals any time of the day. Okay, anyways, all that aside, Switch 2, and it recently got, revealed today, features, again, a 7.9-inch screen, 1080p resolution, so substantially sharper than the Switch, 120 Hz display, meaning that the games will look twice as smooth if they use 120 frames versus the traditional 60. And HDR compatibility, meaning that if you're looking at the colors on an OLED display, if you've ever used a Steam Deck OLED, you'll notice that colors definitely look better when you're using a better screen with HDR functionality. So, of course, all of that stuff is great, okay? The Joy-Cons apparently have, mouse mode attached to it too, so I could totally imagine games like fucking Mario Paint coming out at some point. And, of course, beyond all of it too, you've also got 4K resolution when you dock the thing. Now, I don't think there's going to be many games that are running at 4K, but I could imagine with NVIDIA's DLSS sauce, it could absolutely be a possibility. Okay, so beyond all of this, ladies and gentlemen, what is the price tag for a Nintendo Switch 2? Well, it comes out June 5th for $450 US. So definitely not a super cheap product, but I would say if, you're getting your consoles every, so often as they release, probably not a bad investment. That said, you have to pick between this and I believe a PlayStation 5. So really pick and choose. How important is portability to you versus playing on the most recent system with the most demanding games like Grand Theft Auto 6 coming out later this year. So again, it's up to you. So ladies and gentlemen, the games that are launching include Mario Kart World, which is going to be awesome. I like Mario Kart. It's got Donkey Kong Bonanza, which is a 3D platformer, again. And you've got Kirby Air Riders, I believe a sequel to Kirby Air Ride back in the day. Don't look at the item bounce theme. That comment section is a toxic nightmare. Hyrule Warriors is out here. You've got the Duskblood. So if you are a From Software fan, you've actually got a From Software game coming out. And it looks as close to Bloodborne as we're about to get. Maybe a Bloodborne sequel, all in name. But of course, all of it is basically brought on with some controversy. It's not all, sunshine and rainbows in the Mushroom Kingdom, ladies and gentlemen. For one of the controversies that came out was the fact that there's upgrade packs. So a lot of these games, like Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, you can play a Switch 2 version of them via the upgrade pack method. Now, this isn't new. If you remember back when the PS4 launched, there were a lot of games where you could put your PS3 disc into the PS4, you could spend $10 USD and get an upgraded PS4 version, right? And this isn't new. We've seen this, I believe, even with the PlayStation 5 launch, right? There are certain games, like I believe it was Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, that made you pay for an upgrade. But I consider all of this to be bullshit, okay? There are companies like Microsoft, and you don't see me praising Microsoft all that much, but when you got companies like Microsoft who are releasing versions of their games, like, Halo, Forza, and they're giving you Xbox One base versions alongside Series X versions, all for free, as part of the same package, I don't know why Nintendo can't do the same, right? Even for older games that weren't Xbox Series X launches, Microsoft went back in and made those games run with relevantly better features, right? Like upgrading the resolution somewhat, upgrading the frame rate, putting in higher resolution video assets. So again, if Microsoft is able to provide this for not just their own library, but also third-party companies, I don't know why Nintendo needs the extra $10, especially when this is literally what any company can do. This is anti-consumer, And I wish that, you know, Nintendo and Sony followed Microsoft leads, okay? Or the leads of even PC communities where you can just crank a game up as max as you can. So that was one of the controversies. The other controversy that, again, really rings in my head is the fact that this is a game system where the actual instruction manual, the Welcome Tour app, the primer app, is a paid-for app, apparently. So the Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour, which is coming out same day as the system, it's literally a demo tool, right, to showcase what the new functionalities of the game are. That is apparently a paid-for experience. Charging for this is fucking insane. Like, imagine if Sony charged you for the Astro Playroom game that comes with, like, every PlayStation 5 that shows you the functionalities and the boons of the PS5. Imagine if Valve charged you for the Aperture Labs demo that released on the actual Steam Deck, which would just show you, you know, what you can and cannot do with the Steam Deck versus other devices. This is what Nintendo's trying to do. They could have packed this in as a free experience. Instead, they're charging you for what is effectively a shiny instruction manual for their fucking new console, okay? This is not okay. This is definitely anti-consumer, and it's worth completely calling out. Now, of course, the last thing, and I'm sure a lot of you guys who've been watching me have probably wanted to know my take on this, if you know about my love for physical media, Nintendo Switch 2 Game Keycard. Now, for anybody that doesn't know this, okay, this is a copy of L.A. Noire. Now, on the surface, you might be like, what's so special about L.A. Noire on the Nintendo Switch? Well, if I showed you the top of this box, you'll notice it has a giant strip on top that says Internet Download Required. So when you buy this game, you're basically getting a demo on a cartridge, right? Which doesn't really fucking mean much. You know, at the end of all this, you are basically getting a gimped product when, you know, you're basically just buying e-waste. You could have bought this game digitally and not have to worry about a gimped physical release. So a lot of games, unfortunately, on the Switch's library kind of do this. Well, there are some good exceptions, right? Like, for every shit developer you'll find sometimes, there's physical copies like Witcher 3, which have the entire Witcher 3 experience and its DLC on one cartridge. I've actually played this version. It's a very, very good... It doesn't look as pretty as the PC, but it's a fucking good portable version of the game. Great physical copy to own. This is a problem with Switch games, right? It's not just a problem with Switch. We've kind of seen this with some games on the PlayStation, especially games on the Xbox, where the physical discs don't contain the full game. And whether that's because the company cheaps out, they don't want to add in another disc, they don't want to increase a little bit of that, they don't want to increase a little bit of the actual packaging costs, it can mean that you and I get a gimped product. Now, for most systems, and I've made several videos on this, debunking this myth, most games that launch these days come with a version 1.0 on a disc. You can play this all the way from the start screen to the credits, and you can have your whole game on a disc. Granted, it's better to patch your game and get all the expansions, and nobody's denying that, but you get to own a physical copy, a full version of the game on a disc that you can share with your friends, you can play in its entirety without downloading a patch or needing a DRM effectively to unlock it. So this is a huge problem to the point where games like Metal Gear Solid Master Collection. Now, I would have bought this collection on the Switch because why would I choose to not take it anywhere I go? I mean, I've played Metal Gear Solid 3 countless times on a PlayStation Vita. It's a great way to play the game, and I would love to play it on my Switch. Unfortunately, the physical copy of this game, if you go to Konami's website, you can go all the way to the bottom. This is a physical version for the Switch that literally requires you to download 19.8 gigabytes of information. So effectively, what you're doing is you're just fucking downloading Metal Gear Solid 1, Metal Gear Solid 2, and Metal Gear Solid 3 off of the actual internet. What's front-loaded onto the fucking cartridge, ladies and gentlemen, is just 2 gigabytes, it seems. The actual game doesn't include any of the content. So you're basically fucking buying a game physically that doesn't even have the game on it. It's just a fucking license key, like literally a license key. It's an actual piece of e-waste. The company shouldn't have wasted time and money packaging it. But again, because of the Nintendo Switch, because cartridges do cost money, and I do definitely agree with that, it has allowed a lot of these developers to cheap out on the storage capacity they distribute and just require people to download the remainder of the game. Now, Nintendo doesn't necessarily do this for their IPs that are like, you know, first-party stuff, In fact, a lot of games sometimes don't do it. There's respectable developers that release the whole game on a cartridge, and especially in the Switch's case, you don't even have to install a cartridge, it just works out of the box. Those are cool developers. But what Nintendo has kind of introduced here is what we are calling the game card system. Now, I wouldn't say that this is a new introduction. It's happened in the past. I've proven just now how it happens. But the Switch game key card is legitimizing a shitty form of DRM. So according to Nintendo's site, game key cards are different than regular game cards because they don't contain the full game data. And of course, at the bottom of every Switch 2 packaging will be this little strip that says it's a game key card. So it's a little like Surgeon General like fucking warning that tells you the game you're buying, well, it's not, the game's not even out there. So once you download the game, you can insert the game by inserting the key card into your system and start it up like a traditional game card. So basically, you're buying a digital copy of a game with all of the restrictions of a physical copy. And some people will say, but Muda, I can share this with friends. You can, but let me remind you, game sharing back in the 360 PlayStation 3 days were a thing. And this wasn't entirely new. And before anybody asks, yes, I love physical media. Let me show you just probably maybe like an eighth of my Switch game collection. All these games that I've bought are physical copies that can be played without an internet connection. So games like Metroid Prime Remastered, beautiful game. Games like, wait, actually, let me put it up better on screen right here. Games like, obviously, The Witcher 3, Xenoblade Chronicles X, great title. Games like Diablo 3, games like No Man's Sky, which, again, a recently updated version on my actual Switch, recently like a year old at this point. Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne, great game. Metroid Dread, absolutely brilliant game. And of course, I think you get it. I think you understand that, you know, for me, supporting games, good games is very important. And obviously having a physical copy with the whole game on it is important. There's a lot of games that don't release complete physical copies, like Cyberpunk 2077 was going to buy that on PlayStation 5. The actual physical copy didn't even have the DLC for PS5. What's the point of buying it, right? Surprisingly, the Xbox version actually had the content there. And so speaking of Cyberpunk 2077, it apparently, from CD Projekt Red, they're actually going to be releasing Cyberpunk 2077 launch day for the Switch 2. Now, if I buy the Switch 2, I'm excited for this. And of course, what's interesting right over here is, according to the Switch, according to the actual detailing here, it'll include all of the expansions, basically one of them. It'll take full advantage of Nintendo Switch 2, and of course, it will also come on a physical 64GB game card, which I assume the game is going to fit onto it because it's not a 4K game. I think the game's like 85 gigs on PC, but downscaling that to a Switch, cutting some of the resolution down, the asset quality, because obviously it's not a 4K system, will be something where I think they'll be able to fit it onto a cartridge. Again, this game key system isn't for every game, but it is something worth worrying about. Because again, anytime you deal with physical media, and I'm always going to say it, but like, you don't need to listen to me. There's also like Ross from Accursed Farms, who's made videos, an entire movement called Stop Killing Games, where to really sum it up, a lot of problems with modern gaming is ownership. It's physical preservation. When it comes to movies, when it comes to music, like if you buy a movie on Blu-ray, right? Let's say you buy John Wick 3, and you can fucking back it up to your computer. You can have a file stored onto a drive. You can maybe even share, not saying that I would, because, you know, fucking goddamn Big Movie's going to slit my throat if I promote that. But you can preserve physical media. You can preserve movies and music to an extent. And that, in my opinion, you know, things like piracy, things like preservation, the positive that it provides in that context is that we have not lost a substantial amount of music and movies because it's preserved, because we can back it up and we can store it for eons, you know, to come. But video games are different, especially retro video games that are dying at an alarming rate. So when you have games that have DRM like this, where an internet connection is required, I have to ask the question, what happens when a server goes offline? This is one of my favorite games, Metal Gear Solid 2. If this released in the modern gaming sphere, right? A great game. Imagine if Konami was like, you need an internet connection to connect once and you can play the game. Well, when that server goes offline after 20 years, 25 years, which they tend to do, this game will not be playable unless it's been patched or remastered, and generally companies aren't legally even beholden to it. So the issue that I have is when you release physical media, which typically physical media like this, you can back it up and you can play on emulators, and it's a preserved version you can run in an actual PlayStation 2, which I still have right here. This is the only way to preserve the games. And if you start injecting tons of DRM, tons of tools into it, then it really is the industry making the preservation of some of our favorite games more difficult. There's a lot of great games that have come out just this year. And unfortunately, with DRM and a lot of shitty practices, if those games aren't cracked or if there's not a proper non-DRM version of it, we may lose certain games forever. And I don't know how I can convince the audience to really think deeply about it other than just reminding you just like I have now. And, you know, the thing is, people will be like, who uses physical? Just get digital media. And I would be all down for digital. In fact, there's great storefronts. Not Steam. It's GOG. I can download a game like Cyberpunk 2077 and, you know, install it without any need for GOG's launcher. I can play it without even firing up a launcher. I can run it like a standard program. I can even share that game with my brother, my significant other, my friends, and they can play it without any need for DRM launchers or any form of online connectivity. And if that was what digital media was all about, would be 100% for it. But we don't live in that world. And it seems like gaming companies want to take us away from that world. Now, obviously, the prices on these games have also increased as well, too. If you haven't been noticing, the price for some of these games has jumped $10. For instance, Mario Kart World right now, ladies and gentlemen, you can buy digital for 79 or 80 euros, which is basically the new price. Now, if you want to get the physical version, that's 90 euros, and that's pretty goddamn expensive. Now, obviously, the physical version is going to be more expensive because you're dealing with physical game carts with higher capacities and higher read speeds, which do cost more. I totally understand that. But digitally, this game is increasing $10 more than... We're at a point where game prices have jumped, and it didn't take GTA 6 to do it. This will become the new normal alongside the PlayStation, alongside the Xbox, alongside effectively every other gaming place out there. Because once it becomes normalized in one storefront, this is the one thing that every game company likes to copy each other on, upping their prices. So this is the new generation coming in, and as much as I like the Nintendo Switch 2, I can't deny it. The more expensive games, the wackier DRM that's constantly being normalized, a lot of these things take away from the hype that I have for this system. And if this is the future of Nintendo and then Sony and then Microsoft to an extent, I think I might just stick entirely to the PC. And as far as my console gaming goes, I think the Steam Deck is where I'm going to be at. Because if we're living in a digital future where physical media is getting gimped day by day, then I might as well stick with the platform that is at least the most open. And it certainly isn't Nintendo, and it certainly isn't Sony, and it sure as fuck isn't Microsoft. But yeah, I wanted to kind of talk about it because I had a lot to say. I hope I got it out. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it. I am out. Hello, guys and gals, me, Mudahar, and, you know, ladies and gentlemen, EA Games, challenge everything. That was a slogan I remember back in, like, every PlayStation 2 game that I was kind of digging into, and for a while, you know, I will just say it like so, you know, when I was making the Ubisoft video, there's always one game people remember from some of these big monolith publishers, and, you know, nowadays, it's kind of easy to rag on them because of literally them straight up not liking gamers in a lot of cases. The other day, I was reading some insane shit about Dragon Age. Apparently, EA thought that the Dragon Age Veilguard dog poo that they released would have done better if somehow it was a live service game. So according to an earnings call, right, where they were talking about why they didn't do so fucking well, Q3 was not the financial performance we wanted or expected. We know as a leader in global entertainment, great titles, even when built and delivered with polished execution, can sometimes miss our financial expectations. Maybe it's because you have your expectations like that of Square Enix, where it's like, yeah, if we're not making like billions, I guess, or something, I guess that IP is just a failure. Yeah, Sleeping Dogs? Wait, you tell me that doesn't sell as much as Final Fantasy? Oh man, we gotta axe it. Deus Ex isn't as popular as Final Fantasy? clearly it's an irrelevant franchise. Just throw it out into the mix. Never make it again. God damn, do I hate AAA gaming sometimes. In order to break beyond the core audience, games need to directly connect to the evolving demands of players who increasingly seek shared world features and deeper engagement alongside high-quality narratives in this beloved category. So it was this quote that a lot of people were wondering, whoa, what do you mean shared world features? That equates to live service experiences. Now, I want to just begin by saying that, again, I'm not like a live service hater or anything like that. I play games that are actually popular live services. For crying out loud, I played Rainbow Six Siege for years. I mean, not as much these days, but I played it pretty actively. I would say 2018, 2019. I was a Rainbow Six Siege gamer for a while. And of course, when it comes to live services, obviously Grand Theft Auto Online is significantly popular. It is a live service MMO. But again, EA Games through BioWare, which by the way now is effectively at its like, grave. We're talking about apparently less than 100 employees work at this company, and it's like an actual former shell of itself. Apparently Mass Effect 5, I think, is just touching things like pre-production or getting into action. I don't even think that game is going to see the light of day. I would be shocked if it does. But BioWare's only duty was not Dragon Age. Obviously, if you remember, Anthem came out, a massive live service experience, by the way. And I'm sure if we asked EA's intelligent business Harvard graduates how successful this fucking game is, they tell you, oh man, it's got, all of 20 fucking people still on it, all right? Yeah, this live service experience didn't really do didn't do gangbusters, did it, It doesn't have millions of active live players. I was expecting with all of this live service intelligence thrown into it, probably should be sitting at 2 billion active players every single hour. But, unfortunately, I guess some intellectual missed the mark over there. Now, Anthem is not like a terrible game. It's a game that has some real actual effort put into it. I can actually see why some people would really enjoy it. The shame is it's a game designed to, again, be more for the live service community where you log in every day, you get your dailies, you do everything. It almost feels like there's so much mobile game involvement, so much thought processes put into people constantly doing the same content over and over again just to grind for better and better riches, right? I guess if you played any mobile game, it's kind of like, I grind so I can get 5 pieces of shit and I can fuse those together to get a lump of shit, and then I can use the lump of shit to generate slightly better gear. And I keep doing that over and over and over again like a fucking lab rat until eventually I have the highest possible gear score, and then that's it. That's gaming for me. Now, obviously, I don't think most gamers are really looking too forward to that, especially those that buy $60 single player or community experiences. Now, Dragon Age, I talked about this in the Ubisoft video, it's funny as hell when you play this game, because even the gameplay, forget about all the politics and everything around it. The gameplay is fucking boring, okay? As somebody that's played through a majority of that game, I'll tell you right now, the first let's say first 15 hours of the game, right, which are probably the most pivotal, important sections, if the combat, just the combat isn't exciting, okay? What makes you think people are going to stick around? And you might be like, but Muda, it gets better, by the time you reach level 20, level 25, when you've gotten through your skill trees. Bro, getting to level 20, 25 is where you need to spend 15 hours of your life into. Dog, if the first 15 hours aren't fun, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to go all the way to level 20, 25. You catch what I'm saying? This is not Final Fantasy 13, where it's like, Moody, you just have to get to chapter 13 before things finally get good. Bro, chapter 13's the end of the fucking game. Okay, it's the end. What do you mean it gets good? What, the credits roll and I can finally uninstall this? Oh yeah, the game's amazing then. Absolutely perfect. Wow, 10 out of 10. Finally, I reached the end. Let me uninstall this pile of shit. That's the reality of it, okay? If your game isn't engaging or fun, and again, this is my opinion, it's subjective, yeah, people are going to obviously be a little bit questionable about it. So yeah, when I saw this live service thing, I was sitting down and I'm like, dude, again, it's like the most out-of-touch executives working at these companies who literally cannot understand these games fail. because they're, again, not even close to an actual expansion over games like Dragon Age Inquisition, which was like a PS4 launch title, a PS3 title. We are not even producing games that are taking real advantage of the PS5. We are producing games that really feel like hampered, neutered, live service co-op games that now have these stories attached to it that just feel like they're PS4 games with slightly higher resolutions and maybe some ray tracing haphazardly thrown in. These are not PS5 games. These are not actual improvements, right? You think when you play a game a decade down the road, there would be something pretty massive, something pretty changing, but there isn't. And that's one of the problems that I think people have when it comes to these video games. The teams involved have shifted and changed so much throughout the years that Dragon Age might as well be titled as something different, because even the original Dragon Age team doesn't seem to give that much of a shit about this new Dragon Age stuff that comes out. But even beyond all of it, like, the other thing that I saw coming out that made me laugh my ass off was this Sims Legacy Collection, okay? Now, I'm somebody that's a fan of The Sims, and the moment you start seeing mixed on Steam, you go, oh boy, what's going on here? And unfortunately, it seems like The Sims 2 actually has some performance issues. Now, how the fuck does a game that was released in 2004 have performance issues in the year 2025? Well, according to a few of the reviews for this, it really led to a lot of issues that came with this Legacy Collection. Now, they released these games again. These are old PC games, 04. Apparently, there is no UI scaling at resolutions of 1080p and above. So, mind you, modern resolutions like 4K monitors, 1440p monitor, 1080p monitors, if you're not even scaling to do that, should people spend, by the way, $40 on this? When I'm not advocating piracy, but if you have like older discs existing, I'm sure you can find fan patches that work better than the official shit that EA makes. So apparently there is even worse for the pre-rendered neighborhood view, which seems to be presented as a small, low-res window in the center that they couldn't even they couldn't even think of throwing that shit into like an AI upscaler and then putting it into the game. No. That would require effort at EA. That would apparently require them giving a shit. Crashes at launch and after assorted durations of playtimes. I mean, that's just par for the course. I mean, shit, you're trying to what? Play a PC game in 2025? Gonna have to deal with lack of modernizations, QoL fixes, or even basic shit like Steam cloud saves. Bro, you know how many fucking dudes would play this shit on their computer and then be like, well, time to go to bed. Let's bring Sim. You don't even have cloud saves? In 2025? How much could it have been? How much effort could that have been? Retention of known bugs from the original release. I mean, that's just hilarious. Like, not even fixing any of the issues from the original games. You know, you can tell the game company doesn't give a shit just by reading the system requirements. You're telling me a game released in 2004, The Sims 2, by the way, requires 4 gigs of RAM? You know, a lot of people were using 32-bit Windows at the time. They couldn't even, the computers back then didn't even know 4 gigabytes of RAM existed. Shit was like Plato's allegory of the fucking cave. The computers all were sitting in blindness. One motherfucker updated to 64-bit, went back in and they were like, nope, this doesn't exist. What? And then you look at the graphics for this too, like the graphics requirements. NVIDIA GTX 600. Nothing says I gave a fuck about optimization than requiring a graphics card from 2012 for a game literally released in 2004, okay? That is actually wild. I'm sure the way that these things are done is somebody at EA or any game publishing firm goes into like the tech closet somewhere in the site, digs out the dustiest, oldest fucking computer from like the Clinton administration, sticks that shit down onto a desk, fires it up, thing explodes like a dust-ridden IED, and as long as they can see the splash screen, whoa, congratulations, throw that shit up on Steam, boys. What is the minimum requirement? Windows 10? In what universe does Sims 2 require Windows 10? Shit could run on XP. You might as well just give actual requirements, because I'm pretty sure this game is just a slightly patched, and I say slightly patched version of the original binaries. 17 gigs available space? What the hell did you stick on here? A whole bunch of Sims Rule 34 on the drive that's inaccessible? I doubt the game is even close to half that space requirement. But I'm being a little too wild, okay? Obviously, I'm trying to expect EA to put effort into a game, and they won't. They don't really care. Like, obviously, there's like shining examples where games like Mass Effect Legendary Edition actually do have some effort put into it, and they release a pretty solid release right there. But The Sims? Nah. I mean, to be fair, the Sims community, or at least most of the community, is so technically literate when it comes to this game that for them, this is like already amazing. For anybody that has actually played some PC games, I mean, obviously you would look at all these issues as serious actual issues involved. So again, going in further into this situation too, one of the other things that I saw with EA that had me a little blown away was Apex Legends. Now, for those of you who don't remember, Apex Legends abandoned Linux like 3 months ago. Apparently, Linux had a cheating issue, right? You couldn't really monitor a lot of the cheaters that well. And obviously, Apex Legends decided to go from, 91,000, and this isn't Linux people leaving. Like, there was no way there were 20,000 Linux users playing Apex Legends on Steam. But in amongst other issues, actual cheating issues, which have remained unresolved from everything that I've been reading with their updates, yeah, that's what's causing your game to effectively dry out. And again, I wanted to bring this up because usually anytime you deal with like these Windows cocksuckers who are always like, I'm glad those Linux cheaters left. Bro, I'm sorry to say, most of the cheaters are playing Windows, okay? The cheaters don't even want to waste time switching to the Penguin, all right? That's just a cope fest from these companies to remove an established player base, people who spend money to play these games and have spent money to play these games from their systems because they're too fucking lazy or they just do not care to support the most basic anti-cheats that already have a lot of the work done for them. But this is a argument that I have with I'm literally shadowboxing. Like, I can't win this argument, okay? It is what it is. But again, the last thing that I wanted to see with Battlefield, this one blew me away. So one of the last, I think, Hail Marys that EA kind of has, and I say Hail Mary, it's not as if they have like all these sports games that like print money for them. Yeah, apparently Battlefield Labs is now a thing, ladies and gentlemen, and apparently they've got 4 studios around the entire globe that are basically working together to make Battlefield games. Now, EA's big franchise for me is Battlefield. It's a game that I've been playing since I was literally, before puberty actually. I played Battlefield 2, I played Battlefield 1942. I've been playing, the only Battlefield game I probably didn't play, and that's because my integrated graphics couldn't run it at the time, was Battlefield 2142. But rest assured, Battlefield 3 was the game that made me want to actually build a gaming computer, so I could play that game on an actual PC, as opposed to the 360 that literally felt like a neutered experience. And of course, Battlefield 4 remains one of my favorite games ever fucking made, shooter-wise. And in fact, it was such a good game by EA, so much care put into it that like, not only you had perfect progression without making the game feel like a microtransaction-ridden shithole, but you also had a lot of thought put into the maps. I mean, to this day, I don't think there is a map as good as Siege of Shanghai from Battlefield 4 in anything that they've released since then. And that was a game that had things like Levolution in every map, where in Battlefield like 4, you could, in Siege of Shanghai, you could see the actual central tower destroy in front of you. And you might be like, well, that's just a pre-baked animation. I didn't care. It looked good. It changed the map, made everything dusty, made it feel like I was in a battlefield. And you know the funniest thing is, that ran on a PlayStation 3, and it only got better. You know, DICE EA actually put a game together that people could be proud of. And yes, it did have issues at launch, like matchmaking wasn't exactly perfect, but overall, I would say, very, very fun experience. And since then, Battlefield is a franchise that I believe is a little bit too much more casualized. It's one that has kind of lost, I would say, the original. It's kind of like Halo, where maybe it's like tuned itself into a way to appeal to like the masses, completely forgetting the gameplay loops that it built initially. So yeah, Battlefield 2042 was the last one that came out. I kind of enjoyed it at the time when it released, when I played with like Hugbees. But then I remembered I played that game at launch with friends, okay? And to be honest, getting tortured in Pyongyang while eating pig shit off the street is actually fun, as long as you're obviously with friends. Now, since then, I've been playing Battlefield 2042 pretty recently, some Battlefield 4, even Battlefield 3. Heck, might even install Battlefield 2 and play some online on some private, community servers, and I'll have a great experience, at least there. Playing a game like Battlefield 2042 shows me just how much they have not expanded this game. The maps, again, just do not have that same level of fun as maps like Lanshing Dam from Battlefield 4, Siege of Shanghai, obviously, and of course, one of my favorites, Flood Zone. These are all maps that existed in prior Battlefield games that actually appear to have care and effort put into them. And obviously, Battlefield 2042 doesn't really seem to have that level of care put into it, and the progression really isn't all the way there. This really feels like, again, a game franchise that's going back in time. So anyways, Battlefield Labs comes out, and I feel like it's the last Hail Mary for this franchise, where like they're apparently trying to release a new Battlefield game sometime in 2026 that's going to blow people away. And there is some new footage that's come out, and this footage has gotten at least some gamers a little riled up. So there have been 12 seconds of footage released for this game, and I want to show you guys what I think is really important. So obviously I want to point out this is pre-alpha gameplay. Gameplay subject to change. Now, typically when I'm at the pre-alpha stage, I'm sure it's going to be very subject to change. All right. So let's look at what they've got in the. Let's see what the labs are cooking here. Let's see what the. Let's see what's going on in those test tubes and beakers. Oh, they got the Battlefield 3 theme. Soldiers running around with guns. Oh boy, building destruction. Woo, baby, rocket launchers. Whoa. Now you can sign up for this, and I've tried doing it, but apparently the queue is like 200,000 players large. So obviously people are excited. There's a bit of excitement from gamers. And again, to be completely real, I would reserve any form of excitement for myself. Remember, this is like early access gameplay. The fact that, you know, guns being shot, players running around, and destructibility that, again, the Battlefield franchise is not new to. This has been happening since Bad Company 2 on the Xbox 360 is enough to excite people again. Like, just the prospect of EA, DICE, and a lot of these organizations that work at EA, just basically saying, yeah, we're going to go back to Battlefield 3. We're going to go back to Battlefield 4. Just shows you, all right, what the gamers actually crave, what they want. But, you know, ultimately, at the end of the day, for a company like EA, it's going to actually be ruined. And again, quote me on this when this game releases. This game probably will be ruined because they're going to have this insane focus on the live service, the hyper focus on like monetization. Let me tell you why a lot of these big shooters fail as soon as they come out of these live service experiences. Usually, and again, I'm going to bring Halo Infinite as an example. When you release a live service shooter, typically these companies release games as like minimal viable product or early access, or, you know, products that are functioning games, but they don't have all their content from day one. So back in the day when games like Battlefield 3 or Halo Reach came out, these were full released games. They came with their campaigns, they came with their multiplayers. Occasionally they would come with some sort of like PvE. In Halo's case, it would have like Forge World, they would have like custom games, they would have the entire suite ready to go. And that meant players actually got a functioning, full, complete experience for $60 on launch. And then typically after a month or two, map packs would start to be released for, again, paid services, you know, $10, $15, $20 packs that people would buy and add on. Now, in this case of live service, I'm totally cool when game companies release map packs for free. So nobody's sort of like segregated